Welcome to Jump School. I'm your host, Ihsaan Ali, aka the StyleJumper. On this podcast, you'll learn a ton of things. We'll talk about style, confidence, etiquette, creativity, and entrepreneurship. Today's episode was brought to you by my new book, Why Style Matters, The Mindset of Dressing Well and How It Impacts Your Life. To get your autographed copy, click the link in the description. Today's guest is an author, podcaster, custom image consultant, co-founder of Crown Hats, the cat that's always in a hat, the style architect himself, Michael Andrew. Episode 18. The following is an excerpt from Instagram Live. Let's go. How you doing today?
Man, maintaining, man. Happy to be on with you, bro.
All right. Since you did it, you dropped it.
Yeah, we chilling.
I got to do it.
We're relaxing.
You know, it's hot out here.
Exactly. Leave that joint open.
Yeah, man. So, first, we always are chopping it up and connecting. So one of the things I want to say first and foremost is you're one of those brothers. And for those you don't know, Mr. Michael Andrew, he is one of the sharpest brothers I ever met. Very articulate and intelligent. And, we actually met a couple of years back.
Mm-hmm.
And the awesome thing about how we met, it was at a style conference called Influential. And, it's usually not a lot of, I would say, diversity, if you will, in these type of environments. And so we all the brothers that showed up kind of formed like Voltron. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
And just, showed each other respect and appreciation. And I saw this tall brother, extra wide brim. I'm like, who is that? I mean, murdering. And I'm like, okay, I got to say what's up to this cat.
Well, I appreciate it. I'll send you the check for that later.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, I'm only paying respect to you. But let's start off, with, your origin story, man. Like, where'd you grow up? And we really want to know about, your whole story about style. But where'd you grow up? What part of the country?
So I'm originally from Austin, Texas. Actually the birthplace of Tom Ford, which I didn't know until I was like 26, 27. A very small town. Austin was considered a very small town until probably about 10 years ago when it exploded due to the tech boom that was there. I see Texas. Portia said Texas, woo woo. I needed to get up out of Texas though. So I love Texas though. Texas is home. And then came to Atlanta after a few years in South Carolina where I played basketball my freshman year as a red shirt, and then moved to New York and kind of just everything really springboarded from there because I had the freedom to kind of be myself.
All right, so let's back up a little bit.
Okay. All right.
So since you were born and raised in Texas.
Born and raised, yeah.
You a DJ Screw guy?
I am a DJ Screw dude. I mean, June 19th freestyle is something I still listen to. I was just jamming Tops Drop by Fat Pat probably yesterday, and was definitely just jamming I Chunk Up the Deuce with Lil Kiki and Paul Wall and all them cats. So
that's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Growing up, in the time that I grew up, I was introduced to Texas rap was the Ghetto Boys.
Yep, Ghetto Boys, Willie D.
Fifth Ward Boys.
Yep.
Them cats, man, they really introduced me to a different type of hip hop. So
yeah.
I can draw appreciation from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, definitely face all them.
Yeah, man. What were some of your biggest influences when you grew up? Before you left Texas, like who would you say, influenced you, parenting wise and family wise? Like who sunk into you because you are very, very cognizant of culture, family, communication, females, the whole nine. I'm like,
yeah,
somebody planted some seeds. So what was that like?
So first, you got to pay homage to to Mother and Mother Earth. The person from which I came from.
Mm.
My mom and I have always had like a very transparent relationship. I remember like I was like 15, 14 or 15, still a virgin, and I remember I was watching like an Oprah episode, and the Oprah episode had finished. Don't judge me. Some of them folks like Oprah. I was watching Oprah.
I was watching it too, bro. Don't worry. Don't worry. 4 o'clock, 3
right,
o'clock.
right. Just looking at it like, let me just see if she got some game.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom kind of walked past the room, and then she popped her head back in and was like, "Hey, you having sex?" And I was like, "Mom, no, I'm not.
Not I.
What are you talking to? And why would you ask me that question, right?" But my mom always was just very much real with me. She said that like, she used to tell me when I was young, like, I'm praying, I pray that you thirst for knowledge and wisdom and understanding, like a deer thirst for water at the brook. And now she regrets that prayer sometimes because I bring things back to her. So she's been a wonderful intellectual sparring partner in a lot of spaces. Um, Outside of that, just a lot of men. When I was in church, um, my elder, who ended up being a bit of a mentor and godfather when I was there, kind of put me on to dressing, kind of put me on to aspects of manhood. And then my youth pastor was just a very unique, charismatic individual. And so he started putting me on to like to manhood and masculinity, and was always just very big on protection, provision, production, and was protect, produce, provide, and then promote. I think that was one of the ones that he used to talk about. And he kind of set me on the path to really discovering and trying to figure out what that meant. And then outside of that, I mean, it was just basketball. I wasn't this in high school. I was basketball shorts and t-shirts. If I was dressed up, it was like the polo button down that was too big. So you had the muffin top, around your waist, and some khakis, and the polo boots with the strap. You know what I'm
Prep.
saying?
I was on that prep train.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, but I definitely wasn't well dressed at all. It wasn't. It wasn't.
me neither, bro. Just struggling, trying to,
Right. Right.
a couple of outfits,
Right. Right.
Well, you say you were playing basketball, so where'd you play basketball in South Carolina?
I was playing basketball for a small school called Voorhees College. It's
Where?
NAIA, yeah, in DeMarc, South Carolina.
Woo,
Yeah.
sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. We did.
you know I'm from South Carolina, right?
Yeah. I know you know,
So
but
you
they
said
don't. They be
Voorhees.
like,
I'm like, woo.
yeah, that was like, and I was there when everybody was still trying to use the towers before you had satellite, so we couldn't even use a cell phone. Like it was that. And then like we only had everybody had a phone in their dorm,
Yeah.
but like it was one line. So like if somebody else on that line was on the phone, like you couldn't get caught. It was crazy. It was a good time though.
Oh man, I
I had a
remember,
great time.
bro. At least y'all had cell phones, bro. We had like,
Right.
going in the hallway getting a payphone.
Right. Fair
You
enough.
know what I'm
Fair
saying?
enough.
So, that this is interesting. And so, what was it that you realized, man? Like, I gotta get out of Texas. And was that a cultural thing? A dynamic of you feeling like enclosed. Terry and I talked about that last week about feeling like, man, there's something more for me
Yeah.
outside of my space where I grew up, and I felt like I was suffocating.
Yeah.
How was that experience for you?
Yeah, I think I kind of felt like I was gonna die.
Mm.
I've told people, and not like I had a hit on me, but I was just gonna die, old man, like with the family, and that probably would have been cool. I mean, I'm not. There's some timeline on the multiverse where, like, I have done that, right, and I'm cool. But I was always just a very curious and adventurous spirit to some degree, and so I got to go to California to Long Beach my sophomore year of high school to play basketball, and I had family who was out in California, and so I was like, "Oh, this like what's this all about? Oh, this all
New
right,
world, baby, different world.
right? Like 70-degree days and like 40, 50-degree nights, and a different type of dude, a different type of young lady there, a different type of culture there, a different type of competition was even there." And how they even played basketball, but which actually introduced me into how they played the game of life, in those different types of situations, was like, yo, I gotta see more of this. Like, if this is all Austin is offering, the same spots, the same people, the same monotonous routine every day. Like I gotta see what else is out here.
It's so interesting you say that too, because as I've gotten older, I keep thinking about where would I end up, you know, and if I looked on the map of the country, in my mind, there's only a couple of cities that I would even consider. And, you know, and Austin is actually one of them, you know, from a tech standpoint. I love, you know, to your point, whether you used to be the tech as far as like environment and music and that kind of thing with South by Southwest. And I just envision myself if there was a creative space that I could go to, where taxes, you know, saving dollars.
You ain't gotta pay those state taxes in Texas.
You know what I mean? So yeah. Austin has always been that place. We actually got some family that moved out there recently, so I can't wait till things kind of settle down and actually see it for the first time because I've never visited.
Okay.
But let me ask you this. So we talked about like the polos with the muffin top, you know, way too big. When was it that you said there's something about clothing that started speaking to you? And I want to add to that, when was it that you looked at yourself and was like, boy, you actually look good right now? You know what I mean? That first moment.
Okay.
Can you reflect on that?
So that's two different times. So for me, it kind of started in high school. There was an introduction. So, let me take a step back further than that. So when I was like 9 or 10, I was very much into anime, because I had some friends. I had a close friend who was part Japanese and part black, and so her mom used to take her back to Japan, and like they would bring all these things back, and I would see all this cool new technology, and then we would see anime. She was an amazing artist, and so she used to design all these cool characters and stuff like that, and I'd be with them like trying to figure out, but like, how they make their eyes like that? I'm trying to do my eyes like that. I could never do it. So I would just try to make some cool little outfits or something like with the person. And then that introduced me into like the design space, because you may remember, and some of you guys may remember, Nike did a competition where they were allowing you to design a sneaker that they would eventually mass produce. So I entered in that competition, definitely did not win, didn't even come finals, but it introduced me into something where I was like, oh man, like I can create something. And then high school happened where I was just drawing, like sketching out flats is what I ultimately figured out what they were, and sketches. And my art teacher was like, yo, you do know that you could make this a career. And I was like, nah. Like, she was like, where do you think clothes come from? I was like, I don't know. Like, you know, I just thought they were here. So when that happened, I started really exploring what it meant to be a fashion guy, and was into streetwear, because at that time it was Aniche, it was Echo, it was Paul Wassam, like it was Pelly Pelly, right? All these different types of designers, and that's all I had access to. And then Sean John came out. And I remember when Sean John came out, their first collection was inspired by the 1920s, 30s New York. So they had the cell said who? Exactly. So they had Applejack hats, this beautiful Argyle sweater. It's still an Argyle sweater that I want to get because he just executed it so well. And at the time, the fashion designers were actually giving you breakdowns of what type of fabrication they were using, the design. So it would be like alpaca, oversized sweater with suede embossing on there. So you were learning all these different types of things. And as I was watching Sean John, this is when the internet is really, really starting to garner traction. I saw Farnsworth Bentley. And this is when he was still Farnsworth Bentley and not Farnsworth. And so I saw this.
Break down why the switch. People need to know that.
Well, I'm not gonna speak too much because that's his story to tell. But from what I've been told, allegedly, Diddy came in and said, "Yo, we're going to license the name Farnsworth. So that's ours. Because I gave it to you. I put you on to that." Yeah. And Bentley Farnsworth is actually on Dr. Dre Let Me Ride. If you ever watched that video, it said that one of the hosts is Bentley Farnsworth. Like, so I don't know if that's where he got it from, but that's neither here nor there. And so Derek Watkins, which is his real name, was smart enough and didn't make it emotional and just changed his name, changed a few letters in the names, and became Farnsworth. But when I saw him, I was like, you know, Diddy had him holding the umbrella for him, and he had his linen shirt on, linen trousers on, and some Gucci slippers. And I was like, I mean, that's cool, but who is that other dude like carrying the umbrella?
Yep.
He flied in a mug. Like, who is that? So that's who I wanted to be like. And at the time, we didn't have the same Google opportunities that people have now. So like, I was actively for 3 months trying to figure out who this dude was. And so I finally figured out who it was. And every like week I was going online to see another picture, to see if he had posted something or somebody had captured this image of him. And I was like, I want to dress like that. And that's when I knew. As far as me, when I look good, it was probably when I was here in Atlanta. My mentor had taken me out. I had to invest in my own first suit. And he was like, this is where I kind of get the game is to be sold, it's not to be told, but you got to pay attention. He was like, listen, I got to make sure that you invest in this. I'm not going to give you a suit or give you a piece because you're not going to appreciate it. If you have to put the investment in, you have to pay for the tailoring, you have to actually put skin in the game, then you won't appreciate it. And he went and got me this black pinstripe suit of Michael Kors, 3-button. Never forget it. And I wore the hell out of that joint like for a good 3 years. That was my go-to. And when I saw it, I was like, can't tell me nothing now. And this dude, like, I wish somebody would try to say something to me out here. So that was when that happened.
That's hilarious, man. It's so interesting when you have that realization that there's something about me that's unique, and that in all intents and purposes is beautiful. You know, our parents love us, right? They're gonna think we're the most beautiful beings.
Yeah.
But it's something when you honestly, and not from an ego standpoint, but really acknowledge self in wearing something that completely transform you to a higher perspective of how you're viewing, you know, how you perceive yourself. So that's really interesting. And you brought up something that I hadn't thought about in a long time. I remember back in the 80s, in my whole foray with learning how to draw, me and my cousin would sit and draw sneakers.
Yeah.
And that was like the thing, you know, we would just sit there and like, this is what my sneaker would be like.
Right.
You know, having like the first pair of Maxes back in the day.
Yeah.
And just spending a lot of time doodling. And so it's just interesting when you talked about drawing sneakers, I was like, wow. Well, let me ask you one question right now. So as far as style, who would you say right now is the dopest in the game? Like, who's doing it really, really well that you're like, he's on another level?
So if I'm being honest, and it's not me being politically correct, this is there's no one person to me who's doing like killing it the best over here, killing it over here. The people I would say that are dressing the best are the people who are actually dressing as themselves. They're not restricted to the confines of anything. And who have a clear reasoning, right, in their expression for why they're dressing the way that they dress. One of the people that I've consistently appreciated are cats like Lino Ulizzi in Italy, because he only really shows you 3 or 4 different types of looks. And they're pretty similar in the consistent basis, but he's still regarded consistently as a well-dressed individual. The Bespoke Twins, just because they are creating something. Mark Williamson from Flamekeepers Hat Club, one of my OGs and big brothers. Just consistent. They're consistent. They have a uniform. I hope. No, I don't. I was gonna say I hope that I get to that point at some point, but no, I don't. I'll probably have a huge wardrobe when I get older. I don't know. I'll probably be doing this for the rest of my life.
What do you mean a huge wardrobe when you get older, Brett?
I'm not killing it like a lot of people think I. Listen, that's another reason why like I appreciate social media, but why I hate social media. I have right now four suits. I think maybe like seven jackets. I'm not killing it like that. Like I just I'm happy to mix and match things, and this is why I talk to a lot of guys. Kofi Black said Ouija Theodore, yes, definitely has a great look. And Cell, do I have a uniform? Yes, we can talk about that later if he wants to. But yeah, so I think that for me, the more that I acquire, it's funny. It's this constant balancing act that I'm doing. Like I don't want to have a huge wardrobe of things that I'm not wearing. I want to have a huge wardrobe of like absolutely everything in here I love. I can tell you a story about all those different types of things. So, but it's not big. A lot of people think that it's not. It's not really that big.
Well, that kind of leads me. It's a great setup. I love it. You, in my mind, and you picked the perfect moniker under, the style architect, because you're like an architect. You're reconstructing the idea and concept of how to put things together. You know what I mean? And I think about, when Smokey was trying to hold on that $100, that money owed Big Worm. He flipped it over, right?
Flip that right over. 40, 60, 80, 120. Right, yeah.
So the whole idea is learning how to, flip what you have and expand on it. So when we talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis, let's dig deep into that. So what are some of the things that you find that men have a challenge with when it comes to style, and specifically what you do to help expand their mind and help them interpret what's a great look for them, or at least help them with that process?
So the major challenge that most guys run into when it comes to their style is actually the same challenge that they have when it comes to their life. They have no awareness of who they are. So when I'm talking to a client about something, first thing that we start out always is with your characters. And so people are like, well, what do you mean? Well, first we have to start with your physiological, characters, how you stand. Are you slumping? Do you have slumping shoulders? Like, how do you move with your pieces? Are you a tall guy? Or are you a short guy? Do you even understand how those dynamics play a part in your presentation? And then we also start taking a look at your psychological characteristics. Are you an introvert who comes off when you are not confident as a shy person, or are you an introvert once we magnify and elevate and maximize who you are, you become a strong, silent individual who's mysteriously attractive? Do you have that understanding? Are you an extrovert, social butterfly? Do you enjoy being out? Are you a more expressive person, or are you a more reserved person? All these things come into play, and then you also need to pay attention to the roles you play in life. Are you a dad? And if so, how old are your children? Because I tell a lot of guys, it sucks when you say, "Oh, I'm gonna go get suits," and you're in an industry that doesn't require you to dress up, but you think that that's what you're supposed to get because that's what makes you look good. And your 2-year-old has just finished finger painting and runs up to you, is like, "Daddy, daddy, daddy," and then you got stuff all over your suit, and you want to kill your kid because I love you, but I gotta kill you now. I gotta kill you. Versus me saying, why don't you go get some dope chinos, some cool khakis, and when he does that, then what you do is you turn that into a finger painting session on your clothes. And when you go to a soccer game or to a basketball game, you can throw those on and be like, "Man, where'd you get those from?" This is whatever your son or your daughter's name original, right? Like, and it's something that you can laugh at, and that your kid will probably be embarrassed of when he's 12, if you're still wearing those chinos, and you're like, "Get him, Billy." Yeah, he did these when he was 5. My
boy did good.
Right? And I still got him on, Billy. I still got him on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have that. And then lastly, just the elements that compose your character when you take those clothes off or before you put them on each day is necessary. Once you have those understandings, then we can start maneuvering through those stylistic spaces. We can begin curating your wardrobe, and you start seeing that you don't need all these things. Like, we don't realize that the more we try to just throw a lot of things into our closet, we create a sense of chaos, not only consciously, but also in our closet. And so we step in and we're like, "Man, I got nothing to wear." Dude, you got 500 pieces in here. That's why you don't have anything to wear, because you don't love any of this. You just bought it because GQ told you were supposed to buy it, or Esquire told you that you were supposed to buy it, but you don't even know if this resonates with who you are and what you're about.
Got it. So if I am starting off with my first suit, which is a lot of men, or custom suit,
Yeah.
to be clear, what should I expect? So we're going to talk about color and investment. So if I'm coming in your space for the first time, and you can shout where that is if you like, whether it's, but
Style architects don't play.
you know, but what is that, what does that look like if I'm walking in today and I haven't bought a suit since prom, and I didn't even buy that, you know what I mean? Like some rented suit, and that's probably the first and the only time I had something that I, air quotes, was pretty much custom, besides something off the rack, So, well, how would you address that?
Well, our first conversation that we usually have to have with individuals that they don't think about is, are you a suit guy? Are you a suit and tie guy? Especially in the climate that we have now, there's a lot of our customers that are transitioning from that. They're not going back into an office that's going to require them to be formal or to be dressed up. And we've seen that consistent decline over the last, I would really say, 15 years. I mean, with the advent of technology, booming types of companies, a polo and khakis are sufficient. So are you a suit guy? Because what I don't want you to do is invest, normally around $1,000 to $1,500 is a starting price point for a custom piece. I don't want you to spend that amount of money and you're not going to benefit from it. I would much rather we get you a dope blazer that you can leverage over and over and over again with jeans, with chinos. You can throw that on with linens. If we get you the right fabric and weight, it can be a multi-seasonal type of piece. And then you have some custom trousers that are chinos for you that you can leverage a little bit. If I'm working with a client, we start taking a look at their color profile. Green is a color profile that a lot of people kind of sleep on, so you can do a blazer out of that. If I'm doing a suit to start out with, we're going to usually stick with the blue grays. But in the custom space, where a lot of people actually miss this, the gray could be everything from charcoal, could be from slate, it could be heather, it could be flannel, and it could also have some slight deviation like a oatmeal gray or a taupe type of gray, where it's still gray but it has green undertones, or it has sand undertones, all of these different types of elements. Or if you're in blue, is it a cobalt blue, a royal blue, a navy blue, or a classically navy blue, midnight blue? All of these different types of colors, or I should say hues and tints, going along the color spectrum, can differentiate how you want to show up in that space. So we'll talk about those things, and then when we start talking about how it needs to be cut and the different details, we'll walk through to figure out what is going to work best for you. But it is a personalized experience. That's what you should expect. A personalized experience and somebody who's very genuinely interested in what your needs are.
With everything that's going on right now, we just had social climate is kind of crazy. And one of the things that is interesting that you and I are doing this live is during the quarantine is when you were doing interviews and inspired me to take that next step.
Yeah.
It was during, the tragic death of George Floyd. And here we are, you and I, first time, we're usually one of giving interviews. Yeah. And here we are, we're speaking on it. And we have Jacob Blake, now paralyzed. And you and I both know that style really matters. But sometimes I'm getting the sense that does it, you know what I mean? Because I know for sure for us, it's a matter of life or death. What we wear, and I'm not talking about, blood crib, vice lords, none of that, how you tip your hat, Chicago, but how you dress, how you communicate, how you articulate, your posture, all those things, in my opinion, really is a matter of life or death, and it matters. So I'd love to hear your insight on that.
Yeah, and I mean, and we're still, waiting and not waiting anymore, but demanding justice for Breonna Taylor as well, for the other killer who was walked in by the police, who murdered somebody last night, a vigilante, a murderer, terrorist, all that stuff. So I think that we have to remember, if we go back through history, we can look at, Martin Luther King. We can look at Malcolm X, who was still gunned down, and Martin Luther King, who was still assassinated in suits, right? What I think we as melanated people need to start paying attention to is the pride and the feeling of elevation that these people felt when they put on something. Um, Even when we look at old, if you look at old movies, Godfather or Hoodlum or The Cotton Club or
Harlem Night.
Idlewild, Harlem Nights, right? All of these great movies where you got to see black people who were well dressed, even when they were hanging out and chilling. Malcolm X is another a great imagery, a great view of imagery when you saw a dandy, quote unquote, at the time, who was walking around in the zoot suits,
Yep.
and it was loud and it was extra. It still was dressed up. And for us, it's a matter of life and death mentally, cognitively, because we just need to be in a space where we know that we are worth more than what is being promoted and what's being projected. We, as black people, as melanated people, are often the innovators and the initiators of all things that become pop culture. And so we need to see ourselves as the best version of ourselves. And that doesn't mean that you're in a suit necessarily, but that means if you're gonna be in a t-shirt and some jeans, iron them bad boys. Make sure that they cuffed a certain type of way. Make sure your t-shirt is always on point, that it fits well, and that it's a representation of who you are. It's just like when I'm talking to street cats, you know what I'm saying? And I don't talk to a lot. I don't claim to be that dude. But when I've talked to street cats and they would be sagging their pants, I was like, fam, understand that fashion is function.
Mm-hmm.
So if you gotta run from 12 and your pants are sagging, how you gonna get away?
Yeah. Yes.
That's how I get you. If I need to hold a little, you know what I'm saying, in my pant leg, and it's not properly tailored and I need to release, now I got a problem. So it's understanding that this is chess, it's not checkers, and that's what I've been telling folks for the last 6 or 7 months. But you got to think 3 or 4 steps ahead. You have to understand your opponent. You have to understand your adversary and figuring out how you need to move in those situations. With Jacob Blake, it's unfortunate that his kids now are traumatized. His kids now will forever have a disdain at best for authority, for law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And our only goal at this point has to be to get home. And so this is why, some of my OGs in other spaces have been like, yo, you need to know your laws locally. You need to know state mandates. Listen, hey, can I see some ID? I'm not required to give you my ID, sir. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Mm-hmm. And if you're dressed a certain type of way, good, bad, or indifferent, they're going to have to interact with you a different type of way. Because I'm going to tell you, God forbid anybody ever gets assaulted in a suit that's a black man, it's definitely going to be all hell raising loose. Because they're going to be like, this dude was in a suit. Like, how are you going to... You can't say he was a thug. You can't say that he looked like he was a threat.
I agree.
He was dressed.
I agree. And it's, you add on to the component to your point of understanding laws, but also how you're communicating, how your articulation and understanding composure. And that was one of the things for me, like something my mom told me. I was like 18, 19, and I forget the lady name who was in South Carolina who drowned her little boys.
Oh, Elizabeth Smart, I think.
Whatever.
It might have been her.
Something like that. But she, there was a national manhunt for
black men.
A dark-skinned black man, low haircut, just the simple profile that any of us could have been that guy.
Yep.
And my dad was so angry at me. He was like, hey, you got to straighten up. You got to tighten up what you're wearing, where you're going. And my mom was right there with him. Like, you have to know how to talk. You have to know how to gain your composure in those environments. Because if you allow your emotions to take you too high, that person's going to meet you with that emotion usually.
Yep.
But it's really sad that we have to go through these checkpoints in order to survive. Yeah. And I'm so glad that, brother Jacob, was able to survive this.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's like he shouldn't have had to go through that process. And to your point, and now it's affected his children, his family, and now it's one more thing that we have to process on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
So it is important to me, and I agree with you, what you wear, that nonverbal communication sets you at least at the point of, okay, this guy is aware. And to your point, there's no thug in me at all. So it's how is this guy speaking in a way that I can understand, and not meaning that, I'm speaking like, slang or whatever, but like I'm not being aggressive in that response to that officer, but I'm trying to understand and let him understand and know that I understand my rights, but also I understand that now let's speak on a human level, a man-to-man level, and let's see what we can do. If there's something I need to do, I can do that. You know what I mean? If whatever the case may be, but I really wanted to touch on that because there's a lot of brothers out here who are, really being impacted. To your point, hey, if you're gonna wear street, then wear street in a way that's, you can't run if your pants on your ankles.
Yeah.
And someone's gonna grab your shirt with your shirt's in your pants, and it fits you well. What they grab?
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think that the other side of that too is for better or for worse. Again, this is all a game. We call this the game of life.
Yep.
And so, if you're understanding your opponent, it's always interesting. If you ever watch any crime shows, like, and you see like the kingpin actually going in for questioning or something, he's always like, yeah, yeah. They don't even say nothing. They be like, yo, talk to my lawyer.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And then he'll lean over to his lawyer. Yeah. No, I'm not gonna answer that. If we need to go to court, then we'll go to court, right? It becomes this process of when what you've seen numerous videos of guys who actually are aware of the law, and they'll yell, they'll get upset, they'll be angry, but the police officers are like, oh. Like when you hear certain things like qualified immunity, right? That's what you've been hearing when they say defund the police. What they're actually talking about is qualified immunity. If you know about qualified immunity, and I'm not going to speak on what I'm not a master or expert in, but just if you mention qualified immunity to a law enforcement person, essentially that's their insurance, for lack of a better term. And if you say, look, I'll just make sure that I speak to a representative about your qualified immunity, Officer Briggs, badge number 784. They will be like,
I mean, to pump my brakes a little bit. I'm like,
yeah, is this really worth how I need to move? If if you're walking, with me, being a person who just commutes to work, I don't drive. I know that here in Georgia, the way that I need to present my ID or my identifiers is not the same as it would be in Texas or it would be in New York. Excuse me. So it's just important for us to be knowledgeable. And I think that, when we say he dresses smart or he always looks so intelligent, we just want to be mindful of where those origins or those stories are coming from for those statements. And just making sure that we're in those spaces. Again, I'm not telling the dude to throw on a suit and tie. A suit and tie, you may not be that dude. You may be a dude who has t-shirts and jeans and loves your Timbs or loves your sneakers. That's dope. Just make sure it's the highest form of who you are, because emotion is energy in motion. It's a movement. It either is going to transmute or it's going to transfer. So if you are afraid, what we don't realize is that we are emitting energetic radiation, if you will, to make somebody else afraid. And that's a hard thing for you not to do. I'm not gonna lie. When the cops come up behind me, I see those red and blue lights, my heart starts beating.
Of course.
But it's important for us to understand and learn how to do exercises that calm us down, right? Breathing exercises. This is why it's important for us to meditate, for you to pray, for you to do all of these things that put your mind at ease, and to turn off the freaking TV. because don't get it twisted. All this stuff is propaganda. Now, when I haven't watched that video of Jacob Blake. I refuse to watch that now. I've seen enough death and murder porn for my life. I heard about it. I heard that he was shot 7 times. I need to see the video. I don't need to see what a inhumane slaughter or attempted slaughter looks like, or a murder of a human being. I don't need to see it. So I did not acknowledge that. I only acknowledged the situation. So we just have to be careful about what we're consuming in that space.
Well, I appreciate that insight, because this needs to be shared, and you made some valid points. I would say, as we switch gears, it sounds like, and first of all, respect to those brothers. We pay homage to them and respect their families, and our hearts and prayers are with them. 100%. But you wrote a book, boy. My boy, you wrote a book.
Yes, I did. Right here, you know what I'm saying? Yes. Dress for Success.
So what's the play on the sex? Success. So what's that about?
So for the short story is, I've always been I'm not a creep, but I've always been very interested in sex, and not the mechanics of sex, but all other aspects, mechanics to a certain degree, but very, very minimal. The psychological ramifications, the sociological ramifications, the spiritual and metaphysical elements, what that actually means for how we attract other individuals. And so for me, there was always a sexual component to style. And one of my OG mentors used to say, a suit for a woman is like lingerie to a man. So, of course I was like, let me go get this suit real quick. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to have her have that tingly feeling as well.
No.
So as I started to dress, and I started to have those experiences to a certain degree, it's much more subtle. There's a sensuality that comes with it, and as I started to explore the different elements of how style can really create attraction, it started me down this path of writing this book, where we could discuss the masculine and feminine when it comes to your image, and when it comes to style. We could talk about the unification of both and why those are important. Who you're dressing for. Are you dressing ultimately for yourself, and do you understand what comes with that? And then also just STDs, stylistically transmitted, diseases, and soul issues, and why we need to be love hers and not, just fuckers. That's the only curse word I'm gonna use. But where we need to be much more thoughtful about how we maneuver, not only with what we're choosing in our presentation, but the types of people that we choose to present that presentation to. And so that's what the book was really about.
Well, man, those of you who are here listening, you got to get that book. It's something that's really valuable, that will change your thought process when it comes to the way you put on that gear. So look at this, man. What's that?
And I also wanted to just make sure everybody knows. So the young lady who presented these beautiful legs, right, it's meant to be provocative, but her son was actually diagnosed with leukemia a year and a half ago. And so I've been making sure that everybody knows 80% of my proceeds for the book are going to her, right? It's going to her and her well-being. So I want you to get this game, but I also want to make sure that I support her, because she didn't charge me a dime for this. She was just amazing, and so I want to make sure to pour back into her. So I'm trying to get to like 40,000. I want to be a Amazon and New York Times bestseller so that I can send her that money.
Yeah, that's wonderful, bro. You are one of the individuals, like I said when we first met, I noticed your hat game, and you are one of the first people that I've ever seen master a boater hat, and now you have color that you've interpreted into this hat, because obviously the traditional is like your traditional straw look with the red, red, white, and blue, or red and blue ribbon. Let's talk about the crown.
Okay. So Crowns Hat Co is my new business venture. I've had it for about 4 months now. And for me, I gotta always show homage to the people who put me on. My big brother of Flame Keepers Hat Club actually put me on to my first boulder. He gave me one, I believe, and then he was like, "Man, I got this new boulder, and it was black." And I remember when he showed it to me, I was like, "What is that? I need that in my life. How much is it? I ain't got no money, but I'm gonna figure out a way to pay you. Like, we'll figure it out." He's like, if anybody does not know Flame Keepers Hat Club, an amazing dude. They're super cool. He's always just a little back, yo, bro, I got you, baby. He was just like, I got you. So he put me on to the boulders. And when he put me on, he was like, "Yeah, and I got some other colors coming." I was like, "Oh, so I'm about to kill him." And there was only one other dude that I had really seen rocking boulders with two was a gentleman named Danny Wellington, who's also, to your earlier question, super killing the game. An amazing dude who focuses his attention on vintage kind of clothing. And DJ Cassidy, a white dude, but was killing boulders. Like, he just always looked amazing.
Okay.
And so after I saw that, I was like, "Man, I want to get some more of these colors." And so when he uh when he put me on, he gave me one other color and then was like, "Man, I got some more colors coming." I was like, "Where they at? Like, I need them."
Yeah.
And so he said, "I got you, I got you." And this was like for 3 years. Not because he was sunning me or shading me. It was just he was super busy because he had just started his own shop in his own company. And so I went and did my research and I was like, "Man, bump this. Like, I'm gonna find these hats." So I ended up finding the manufacturer. The manufacturer was kind enough to work with me. And I've been doing this kind of to the side last year. And then this year decided to launch Crown's Hat Co. So I am exclusively right now, indefinitely, selling boulders. And so we're gonna George Washington Carver this joint and figure out how many ways we can start creating boulders for individuals.
That's what's up. Where can we find those boulders?
So you can always you can go on IG to Crowns Hat Co. And that's just Crowns with a K, not a C. Or you can go to crownshatco.com. And we got the website up, and we're gonna be revamping the website as well. So, or you can just DM me. I still got a few, what I'm saying, ready to wear that you can grab.
And we know every king needs his crown, so
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I'm loving it, man. I gotta get one. I've never owned a boater, but when I get one, it will be a crown.
I appreciate it. Yeah, definitely elevate your ensemble with the crown. So
yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we have about 10 minutes. So I want to do something that's kind of fun.
Okay.
In which I call the creative Last Supper.
Okay.
I think we'll have a little bit of fun with this one. So it's basically like, this person or that person.
Okay.
These are the people that you want to hang out with for that last sit down, just like Jesus and them disciples. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
All right, here we go. So Biggie or Pac?
Pac.
Martin or Will? And I'm talking Martin during the Martin show or Will doing Fresh Prince?
Martin. Martin.
Jay-Z.
He probably told me to get to stepping, but
get to stepping. Jay-Z or Nas?
Jay.
Tom Ford or Oswald Boateng?
Probably Tom. But only by.
All right.
But probably Tom.
Hey man, this is your last supper, bro. All right, J. Cole or Kendrick?
God damn. Kendrick, probably. Kendrick.
Childish Gambino or Tyler the Creator?
Oh, Tyler, 100%.
All right, we're going old school. These are old school females.
Okay.
Lil Kim or Foxy Brown?
Foxy.
Got another hookup for you. Jagged Edge or Jodeci?
I'm gonna go with Jagged Edge just because it was more of them.
That's
Jagged Edge. Yeah.
All right.
Jodeci was still killing it though.
No doubt. Mary J. or Sade?
Sade, 100%. Without question.
Michael Prince.
Prince. That's definitely much more interesting conversation, I think, with Prince.
I'm not going there. All right,
Definitely gonna be one.
Chappelle or Kevin?
Chappelle, 100. Yeah.
John Singleton or Spike Lee?
Spike. Spike.
Coltrane or Miles?
Miles. Miles.
All right, we got last group, the ladies. Erykah Badu or Miss Jill Scott?
Probably Erica. I mean Texas. Erica. Yeah, definitely
Okay,
Erica.
okay. All right, that's going to eat with you. So as far as an artist, who do you feel is the dopest in the game right now? Who you really appreciate and enjoy?
Okay, so I'm gonna give you like three kind of segments, I guess I would say. So I'm definitely still listening to Kendrick and J. Cole. Uh, but I've been big, which might surprise some people, on the Griselda team. So like Benny the Butcher, Conway, forgot what my other man's name is, but I've been jamming them hard on the hip hop side. Uh, I've been listening to a lot of Freddie Gibbs on the hip hop side. His new album was super dope. Nas's recent album, was amazing as well. On the R&B side, uh, like I don't really listen to a lot of the new artists. I mean, like I love her.
Yeah.
During quarantine, I was listening to a lot of her. Janae Aiko, I guess. I mean, I really do enjoy Janae Aiko. But outside of that, I mean, I've still been listening to like Eric Roberson and Dwelle and like I just finished a like 80s mix that has like Tina Marie on it and
Luther,
some Luther.
Freddie Jackson.
It does not have Freddie. I gotta add Freddie.
Okay.
It has the Isley Brothers. It has the Barge.
Okay.
It has Switch.
Okay.
It has the Gap Band. Like, so
gotta get some Kool in the Gang in there.
Some Kool in the Gang. So I mean, and then outside of that, yeah, just R&B has been all 90s, like SWV and In Vogue and Escape and all those folks. So
that's what's up. So final question. You know, if you were to spend 24 hours with a creative, dead or alive, who would it be and why? Like, you can just ask all the questions, you can really absorb that energy, but like really sit down with that person.
This is going to be a little esoteric woo-woo. I would probably say it would be the sages of this in the sacred temples. Like, I'm talking about, Kemet. Like, give me the secrets to the soul. Like, this is where, Homer and Socrates and Plato all sat at the feet of and, went to the sacred school. So for 24 hours, I tried to get as many of the jewels as they were offering and be like, yeah, can I take this with me? I can take this. Can I take this one? Just this one.
This one mine. This one.
This is the one.
I love it. Well, brother, this has been an honor and a pleasure.
Oh man,
we got a couple of minutes. The ticker's not on yet, but
yeah,
let's for as a recap, where can we reach out to you? And there's another project that you're working on that I want you to make sure that we speak on really briefly. Yeah. Let's talk about that.
So you can find me if you want to develop your personal style and build on it. You can always reach me at Style Architects, either here on IG. You can follow me here, or you can go to stylearchitects.com, and that's just ARCHITEXTS, like you're sending the text, .com, and we can work together. I am going to be working on a course probably at the end of the year. It's going to be called Attractive Academy. How to attract the things that you want in your life. It's not just about you looking good or about you feeling good. It's about actually attracting all of the elements that the universe wants to comprise and build you up with. So we'll be working on that now, and hopefully we'll be ready for release in November, December.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, man, again, this has been an honor and a pleasure. I've learned so much from you over these past 2 years. And I'm really appreciative of the bond and brotherhood that we've been able to garner. And I know there's been many, many years of the
Yeah,
brotherhood and fellowship and a lot of things we're going to do together. So I'm excited about that.
most
And
definitely. Vice versa.
if there's
Definitely
anything,
vice versa as well.
no doubt, no doubt. Is there any advice you would give to that young man or that, that person out there who's trying to identify and seek their style and learn about themselves? What is something that you would, last words that you would share with them about understanding themselves?
Yeah, I would say seek to not understand, seek to understand, like to really go inside of yourself. If you guys are still in quarantine, if you're locked in, lock into yourself. Really figure out who you are and what you're about, and understand that process. And go through the process. You are all heroes or sheroes, and because you are a hero or a shero, you are on a journey. If you get the opportunity, hop on to YouTube and check out Joseph Campbell's A Hero's Journey. See what that actually looks like, because so many people think that growth, expansion, development, progression, evolution, maturity are supposed to be these easy, simple things. And they may have simplicity to them, but they are often going to be some of the most challenging elements that you will ever pursue, but they are so worth it. After you step out on the other side, you are a new person. You're stronger. You are more resolute. You are more emboldened. You are more reaffirmed about who you are and what you're representing. And it's important to remember that if you do catch the hero's journey, it's a circle. So just because you get out of the first one, you level up and you go to the next version, and you're going to go through that circle again. So as long as you are having ups and downs, you're alive. It's only when we start to see that straight line that life ceases to exist. So it's important for us to remember that.
Amazing. Well, be blessed. For those of you who are listening, you have witnessed an amazing experience here at Jump School with the Style Jumper and my very special guest, Mr. Michael Andrews.
I hope you enjoyed today's amazing interview. Today's episode was brought to you by my new book, Why Style Matters, The Mindset of Dressing Well and How It Impacts Your Life. To get your autographed copy, click the link in the description.